All right, we are live. Okay. All right, let's get this party started. Okay, so hello everybody. Hi. Welcome. You asked and we listened. This is our second Sips with Spartan. We did our first Sips with Spartan right at about a month ago. We let everybody into our cocktail hour to really just talk about all of the changes and challenges that COVID-19 has brought on. So one quick thing though, before we get started, I do want to take this opportunity just to say a quick shout out, a quick thank you to all of our teachers and nurses that are out there right now, whether you're listening or not. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and yesterday was National Nurses Day. And we've always been able to rely on teachers and nurses to care for us in times of need and to care and educate our children. And I think now more than ever, everyone has such a deep appreciation for everything that teachers and nurses do out there and the sacrifices that they constantly make. So again, teachers, nurses, thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you do. So we're going to jump right in and talk about all things Spartan real estate on this Q&A forum. Over the last week, we've sent out inquiries to current investors, interested parties, and asked them what they wanted to hear us talk about, what questions they wanted answers, topics they wanted discussed. And so I really appreciate everybody who took the time to submit one of those for us to talk about today. While we can't really provide any kind of insight into the volatility of the market or any kind of other investment that you might have, what we can offer is a view into all things real estate in Birmingham and in Spartan, from the acquisition of properties to the construction, from new builds to property management. We can offer you guys an in-depth look at what we're going through, any challenges and changes that we are seeing and that might affect your real estate investment. So everybody here may already know the team, may not, if you joined with us last time. So I'm going to let everybody on our panel introduce themselves. Maureen, I'm going to let you kick it off for us.
Thank you, Lindsay. Hi, everyone. Maureen McCann, VP of Sales, co-founder with Lindsay and Clayton Mobley. This is my baby that I've been building with this incredible, amazing team. And so it's just an awesome delight. And I'm excited to be here to just kind of update you guys on what's happening, give you the 411. Thanks for being here.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back. We're looking forward to chatting with you again. And hope you get a lot of insight from, the message here today. Oh, I'm sorry. And I am Danny Cole. I forgot the most important part.
Hey everybody, Scott Hildebrandt. Again, really happy to see so many familiar names on the list here, people watching, so thanks for joining us. I'm one of the client services managers at Spartan Invest in Alabama Rental Property, so I work directly with a lot of our clients to deliver news and updates and answer questions as they come in. And so we're really excited to have everybody join us tonight.
Hey guys, I'm Amanda Ford. I am also one of our client services managers alongside Scott. So we work directly with our investors, and I'm excited to get to talk a little bit more about some questions that our investors have been asking and talk about what's going on with us recently.
Hey everybody, I'm Taylor Esdale. I'm the closing coordinator at Spartan Invest. I'm happy to jump in today and answer some of these lingering questions we still have, and cheers.
And Lindsay Davis, CEO and co-founder, Spartan Invest, and a moderator for Cocktail Hour. So, all right, I'm going to kick us off and discuss. I realize the majority of people joining us today are not in Alabama. And every state across the country has had different regulations and guidelines, different phases for reopening the economy and quite frankly, how they shut it down to begin with. And so really quick, Amanda, I'm going to let you start off and talk about what Alabama's plan and guide looks like, what our local economy looks like right now, trying to come out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, you know, in the state of Alabama and across the country in March and April, we had the shelter in place order come through. We all needed to stay at home as much as possible. And here in Alabama on April 28th, Governor Ivey issued the Safer at Home order for the state of Alabama. So the first phase has allowed beaches and some businesses to reopen under certain conditions. So all retail stores right now have opened up at 50% capacity, and beaches are now open as well, but with a ban on any gatherings of 10 people or more. So non-work gatherings are still limited to fewer than 10 people with 6 feet of distance between them, of course. Spartan, you know, we could have had the opportunity if we wanted to go back to the office, but I think our leadership made the right decision for us to stay at home for 2 more weeks to keep everyone as safe as possible. So right now, restaurants and schools have remained closed, and this order, the Safer at Home order, will expire on May 15th, and then the governor will revisit what our current conditions and statistics are looking like and see if we'll be then moving into our next phase of opening up.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I realize, yeah, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. We want to get back to normal, or whatever the new normal may look like, as soon as possible, but obviously want to do that in the safest possible way. So thank you for that breakdown of kind of what Alabama looks like. Like I was saying, as far as the inquiries out there, what we want, or what has been requested for us to discuss, one of the biggest topics is rent collection from the property management side. And if you joined us last month for our first Sips with Spartan, you'll remember that Alabama Rental Property with Spartan Invest offered a $75 discount to all tenants who paid on time for their rent for April and May. So given the spike in unemployment and just all of the struggles that a lot of companies have had, that's been a pretty big lingering question that a lot of our investors have had, and that's a lot of the questions that we've seen coming to us over the last week. So Scott, you're eating, breathing, sleeping, property management stats with all of our investors and how it affects their portfolio. Dive into everything AR as far as rent. You know, did the credit help? What does our AR look like compared to normal months? What's the plan for tenants that were affected, maybe didn't get unemployment in enough time? How are we going to be able to collect that rent? I mean, just all things AR.
Yeah, eating, breathing, sleeping. That's definitely how it's been the last couple of months. So yeah, I mean, we pay really close attention to this. So there's a lot to kind of unpack here. It's definitely one of the most common questions that we get. You know, how are my tenants doing? Are they affected? How's rent looking for the entire portfolio for Alabama Rental Property? Fortunately, it's been awesome. I really, you know, it's hard to say that without, you know, making it seem like we're trying to make it better than this, but we ended April at 10% outstanding rent not collected, which is really, really good. And we continue to track that number through the following month. So we'll continue to track April's AR, we call it accounts receivable. We track that number through the rest of May. So we really we'll expect to see that drop to, you know, our normal 5 to 7%, you know. And then May, right now, we're tracking, we've got 24% of the rent outstanding. So we've collected 76% of the rent already this month. And those are fantastic numbers. That is really, really good. And that 76%, that doesn't even include our Section 8 rent that we're just waiting to get in the mail here in the next couple of days, which is 14% of our rent. So that's going to drop significantly here pretty soon too. So, you know, really the best case scenario, we were concerned that our tenant base would be affected by a lot of the shutdowns, but fortunately a lot of them have really prioritized paying that rent. And that is where that $75 discount that we put out really comes into play. You know, right now, evictions and any kind of recourse that we have or normally would have to, you know, sort of get a tenant out of a house if they're not paying rent, we don't have that right now. We don't really have a lot of recourse. So providing that incentive to say, hey, we know you got a lot of bills, please prioritize rent, and we'll give you a little discount. That worked. That was obviously a huge incentive for our tenant base, and we won't be offering it going forward. We kind of expect to be turning a corner here a little bit. As Amanda was talking about, some businesses are opening up. We already know of some of our tenants who are going to be going back to work, and so so good. All of that has been really good. Also wanted to touch a little bit too on how we're going to be working with the tenants who are affected and who haven't paid that, part of that 10% of April, and who will probably be that 10% in May who haven't paid their rent yet. And it's really going to be, we talked about it last time, it's really going to be a case-by-case basis. We do have information that we'll be able to start the eviction processes again once the Safer at Home order is lifted. Right now, that order is through May 15th, but we all know that everything's changing. So right now, that's the information that we're working on. We don't know if that's going to be extended or not. But once, let's say we do get the ability to start that process again, we're human beings. We're going to work with the people who have provided documentation, who've been communicating with us openly through this whole time and thanking us for our willingness to work with them. And we're not going to evict those people. You're not going to evict good tenants just because they were in a bad situation that a lot of people were in. The way that would benefit us, though, is that we can actually move forward on people who were maybe behind before, we even knew about, COVID-19, and those people that we weren't going to pay rent anyway, and we can start that process. But so we will be working with people on a case-by-case basis, and then the owners too will have some say on their tenants, personal situations and kind of what we can do to work with them going forward.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for that. That is a lot to unpack, but it is so important on how it affects. I mean, the rent is your return. I mean, that's your cash flow. So, it's obviously a hot button issue, and I'm glad that the $75, because quite frankly, we were hoping that incentive would work, and it looks like it really has. So thank you so much for unpacking all of that. That was a lot.
Sorry, I rambled a little bit.
No, not at all. It's great. Okay, so one of the next questions that we received was the overall kind of like, how is the market, Birmingham, Huntsville? Those are the two markets that Spartan Invest currently is operating in. And Huntsville's a little newer. We've been in there right a year. We've been in Birmingham for about 10. So, Amanda, I'm going to come back to you too, because again, like Scott, you're living full time in the property management world. As far as the occupancy, in the overall market, being able to lease up properties, I mean, are we already seeing a decline in the rental rates? The question was kind of how have we had to decrease our rental rates for our current vacant properties? So talk a little bit about that, what we're doing to continue to market our vacant properties, and then our overall kind of leasing and occupancy.
Yeah, we were all obviously super disappointed when all of this happened, because we were seeing some of the best numbers we had seen in a long time as far as leasing and occupancy numbers. So we weren't really sure what to expect. Was this going to put us at a standstill? Were we going to start losing, tenants? But that didn't happen. We were pleasantly surprised that our leasing numbers have still been amazing, and people are still looking to rent houses. So we're at 98.2% occupancy right now, which is fantastic. We have an amazing leasing team, and our rental ranges and rent numbers really haven't changed. We're still able to meet that rent range that we have told our investors to expect when we get our houses rented. We haven't had to lower them while being on the market, because our team is leasing houses so quickly. We haven't even needed to look at that right now. So we're very thankful that they're able to stay at those rates that we expected. Usually our leasing agents, we have 6 full-time leasing agents with us right now who are usually out in the field showing houses, but unfortunately right now we're all working from home. So we're utilizing our self-showing lot boxes, so a customer can go and get a one-time code and look at the houses on their own. And then of course our leasing agents call to get feedback. So that's been extremely helpful to us, and we're still averaging right now about 20 deposits a week. our team and the response that we've had from customers, still out there, still leasing, and we truly have a team that's hitting the ground running every single day to make sure that we're getting these houses leased as quickly as possible in these conditions.
Yeah, and I mean this past week, so I know you guys haven't been able to see our meeting with minutes every Friday. We have a meeting that we talk about all of our numbers. So you haven't seen, but we hit 19 deposits this past week. Isn't that? I mean, that's crazy. I know. It's fantastic. So we're very fortunate to continue to see that going in the right direction and continuing to lease the properties. All right, Maureen, I'm coming to you and crystal ball time. Okay, one of the questions that we received was the changes. What are any changes that we may not be aware of? And I know every day you're talking to investors, lenders, attorneys, closing attorneys. What are some changes that we may not know yet? Major, minor, during this recession.
So yeah, I am a little networker. I like to talk to everybody and kind of pick everyone's brains and kind of bring that different messaging from all those different resources here to this call to our listeners. And I think the first thing to really make note of is that a recession does not equal a housing crisis. We are not in a housing crisis. As a matter of fact, if you listen to some of the big corporations like JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, everyone's talking about what the rebound's going to look like. Is it going to be a V shape? Is it going to be a U shape? Is it going to be a W shape? Like, what is the rebound going to look like? And if they just look at past pandemics and just past things that have really kind of riveted the global economy, most pandemics, they show a V-shaped rebound, which means that the economy was strong prior to going into COVID-19, so the demand is still there. They're expecting that to happen afterwards once the shelter-in-place order has been released. And what was really interesting as I was having these conversations is that unlike 2008, you had a lot of investors that were upside down. They had properties that their values were a lot less than what they owed, and so they just walked away, right? I mean, no skin off their back. They just had to leave it. Unlike 2008, today, a lot of those guys, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, they're talking about housing being the way that we're going to rebound out of this recession. And when you look at the number of, I should have brought my glasses, but I did blow it up so I could read it. But what's different about this time compared to 2008 is that according to John Burns Consulting, 58.7% of homes in the US at least have 60% of equity, 60, and which was drastically different than 2008. And 42.1% of homes in this country are mortgage free. So people have access to capital that can carry them through, even if they're unemployed. It's going to be able to carry them through several months so that they won't. So when the shelter in place does open up and people are back to work and the economy is roaring again, we are going to see that V-shape projected V-shape rebound, and housing is going to lead the way. And then the other thing that really comes up a lot during these conversations is the fundamentals of investing in real estate haven't changed. The opportunity and where the advantage is really right now is you've got super cheap money. I mean, we're still talking about interest rates below, 5%. We're in the 3 3/8 to 4 1/4. 2008 prior to, these were 7 and 8% loans. So the rate of return, the cash flows are stellar when you can lock into 30-year cheap money now. The pandemic's going to pass, but you're going to be locked in with cheap money for a long time. And so the investors that I'm talking with, the closing attorneys, everybody gets it, that they know that this is an opportunity to jump in because of the cheap rates and just the call to real estate bringing the economy back.
Man, I mean, 41% with no more, is complete and polar opposite of 08. So, I mean, that's We did receive a lot of inquiries too about some items in our day-to-day processes, not necessarily COVID-19 related, that we're going to kind of touch on now. And one of the biggest things, and this could have something to do with, like Maureen said, and the assumption that there might be a market recession or a market crisis. But a lot of the questions were surrounding about appraisals. And this is really sales. This is really Danny, Maureen. I'll let Danny take this one. And then Taylor, who's our closing coordinator, to jump in with the appraisal. She's working with all of the appraisers, meeting them out there at your home. So the question is, when purchasing turnkey, what happens when the appraisal comes in at value, comes in a little over, and even if it comes in a little under? And how does that relate to your overall turnkey investment? How does it negatively, positively affect it? The difference, per se, between the sales price versus what the appraisal price is. So Danny, I'm gonna let you take kind of the overall investment aspect of that, and then kind of kick it to Taylor as far as our internal process on how we handle it when things are up or down.
Yeah, absolutely. I probably field this question definitely every week, if not every day, when you're talking to someone, especially new investors that are trying to understand that process. And first of all, we're very cognizant of the appraisal and the fact that most of our investors use leverage. I mean, as Maureen just talked about, the money is cheap. I mean, you can't find cheaper money than historically than now. So that's a wonderful thing. So when they're looking at that, the mandated part of it for the loan is to get appraisal to justify. So I'm going to step back just a moment. I'm going to go into our process, and that is when our construction supervisors / acquisitions managers, when they go into these properties, they run all of the numbers. They look at the comps. They look at the rent comps. They look at what the renovations are going to be to look to justify not only our profit on our side as if we were flipping a home, but it's not just a flip. We are looking to make our investors produce a cash flowing property, as well as we have to be profitable as a company. So when all the numbers are factored in, that is one of them. We do look at those comps. However, when we look at the pricing for these properties, we're looking at this from a cash flow standpoint, from what is this property cash on cash going to produce? And that is taking into account more of the rent price. And so when those come in, we've had instances where a property it could sell higher, for instance, for a homeowner occupant. But when we run the numbers, the cash flow, as long as it's profitable and it makes sense all the way around, we may market that at a little bit less. But there are a few occasions where they come in a little light. And in those cases, the thing to remember is, most importantly, is when you're looking at the property, let's just say, for instance, you came in, you got a $100,000 house, $100,000 appraisal, but in a year, 6 months, whatever that may be, the value was $5,000, $10,000 less. That's not going to change your cash flow. That cash flow is based on that rental market. And that rental market, one of the beautiful things about rental investing is that if your stock price goes down, you get to wait until your stock goes back up. And do you make money during that period? The answer is no. I'll answer that for you. But with cash flowing properties, your value may go down a touch. It's possible. But that rental price, I always say, doesn't chase the value down the rabbit hole. So you get that continuous, consistent type investment. But if there are occasions, and occasionally there are, that the value comes in a little light, and I'll let our closing coordinator, Taylor, take that question and just kind of how we handle that and work with people to make sure they get the best experience possible.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. All right, so when I encounter a low appraisal, I always submit a rebuttal to the lender and the appraiser who performed the appraisal on your property. I look over the appraisal report and dive into the comps that the appraiser pulled and check them up against the MLS listings and previously sold Spartan properties in the area. If the appraiser does not accept the rebuttal, then we can rebroker the loan or meet in the middle with the investor for the amount of the discrepancy. With any of these scenarios, Spartan will cover the cost of a new appraisal. As Danny just mentioned, the sales price is directly linked to the market rent prices, so we firmly believe and trust that the value of the home is accurate. It's really very rare that we encounter a low appraisal.
Yeah, thanks, Taylor. I mean, that is true. It honestly doesn't happen very often, but that is kind of our process. And Danny, I love the rental price down the rabbit hole. I haven't heard that term yet. That was pretty good. I like that. Okay, so all right, Danny, I'm gonna stay with you really quick and talk about our inventory and what that looks like. There's been a ton of iBuyers out there that ceased acquiring real estate immediately after COVID, and a lot of people did. A lot of investors kind of hold the cash. And so what does that allow in terms of Spartan's ability to purchase our available inventory and what that means kind of for you and Maureen as far as your inventory goes that you're able to sell to your investor clients?
Yeah, some of the acquisitions or smaller companies have kind of been put in a position maybe or kind of just holding things close to the vest. So they're in a hurry up and wait situation. Fortunately for us, we're a larger company, so we are continuously buying and we're taking advantage of some great deals on the process. And and it's not that the market is dropping drastically or anything like that. It's just that some of these other investors are missing good opportunities. So that is the great thing is when Josh and Anthony and these guys, Thomas, they're out there buying properties, they're seeing good opportunities and a lot of inventory. On our side, we've kind of made a shift or a change. I know, say, for instance, 6 months ago, it was commonplace for me to tell people, when you look at my inventory, you'll see, 6 to 12 properties roughly at any given moment. Well, we've opened up all inventories from everything within the company to each Shopify website. And what that's done is it's allowed our investors to have more opportunity to see more inventory than they ever have in the past. So when you're looking at Huntsville, Birmingham, looking for that 2-1 or 3-2 or just whatever the fit that makes you happy, you just got more options than you ever have. We're still moving property. To be transparent, there are some people that are in kind of that, I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to time the market out perfect. And honestly, they're putting good money to bad use, letting it sit in the market or in the bank, because that bank's just producing tons of interest right now. But yeah, it's going back to that consistent cash flow, producing a pension and producing money that's consistent. Good economy, bad economy. We're going to have more bad economies. I guarantee you, if there's one thing I can promise you. But what I also can promise you is that if you create income producing properties in a diversified market where the job market's diverse and you have an emerging economy, that's what you're looking for, because there will continue. People aren't falling off the face of the earth. There's still people. They still need places to live. And as mentioned earlier, some of these loans are getting a little more strict, and that's beneficial to us as a rental partner as well. Hope I didn't babble too much.
No, we could honestly spend a whole nother hour, and that may be the sole topic of our next Sips with Spartan, as far as what a lot of talking heads right now are strategizing about the future of single family rentals, because there's just so much conversation out there about the potential, what the future looks like, people moving out of heavy populated metro areas, not being able to purchase as easily. I will stop. So one of the other questions that we did get, if you watch the first Sips with Spartan, Taylor talked a little bit about just what the closing process looks like. How has that been affected? The notaries, your lenders, the closing attorneys, we were kind of scrambling, trying to figure everything out. So Taylor, talk to us about what that looks like now. Feels like 170 days, but it's probably like 45 days in. And what does that process look like? Absolutely.
So 30 days makes a habit, right? Spartan has been in quarantine, like Lindsay just said, about going on 2 months. feels like 172 days, but what are we going to do? And we've been working from home during this time, and it's just been, honestly, I didn't expect to see the numbers that we've encountered throughout all of this. I mean, our closing attorneys, our lenders, the mobile notaries, Spartan, we've all adapted to this change. And we've come out for the better with it. So that means we can work from home for the rest of the year, right, Lindsay? Just kidding. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So we've been more consistent in this new normal through COVID-19 than we have in the previous months. On our last webinar, we saw about a 7-day lag in the closing process. And since our last time together, I've seen that lag diminish completely. It's better processes are set in place, better habits are set in place, and we're just able to really get down into the nitty-gritty of what's been holding us up in the past. So I guess with every curse comes a blessing. I don't think that's a saying, but I'm going to make it one today.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, that's a really great kind of sum in that this is a new normal, not necessarily us working from home, but the ability to adapt and kind of figure out the new processes and get back on pace with all of the closing. So that's good that timeline is really tightened up. So one of the non-COVID questions, and Scott, I'm throwing this back to you, more of a process question that we received is about our leases. So Spartan Invest / Alabama Rental Property has historically done 2-year leases for all of our tenants. And so the question has there been any discussion about revising the current 2-year tenant lease contracts in the future to a 1-year lease to allow for an increase for the rent annually? So Scott, I'll let you unpack that one.
Yeah, so since the dawn of Spartan, a 2-year lease has always been our sort of selling point, like our signature thing. We've always shot for that 2-year lease in the beginning. It's our philosophy that keeping a tenant as long as possible is the most important thing you can do. Trying to get that $25 rent bump, $50 rent bump after a couple of years, yes, we are absolutely going to try to do that. But the unfortunate thing is that we don't get to choose how much rent is. The market values, the market chooses what rent's going to be. So, pretty often, I'll have clients that'll say, Scott, if at the end of this lease, the tenants aren't going to pay $25 more, let's get them out and let's get some new tenants. And we kind of have to start a discussion there because we got to think about everything that goes into getting a new tenant. So you've got, first things first is you're going to have to turn the house over. You're probably going to have to paint or touch up. You're going to have to replace some blinds. You're going to have to repair the, drywall where somebody opened the door too hard and they've knocked a hole in it. Our average turnover cost is about $1,500 before the deposit gets applied. And then you've also got let's just call it a month of vacancy. Let's call it a tenant placement fee, which we have, which is the first month's rent. So that adds up pretty quick. Even if we just use the $1,500 at a $25 increase, it's going to take you 5 years to get that paid off. So that, again, our philosophy is keep your tenant as long as possible. I mean, it's just the best thing you can possibly do. If some of your other expenses are going up and it's chipping away at that cash flow, keep in the back of your mind the other ways that you're making money, which is the fact that you're paying down equity every time your tenant pays your rent and you get to pay your mortgage. You are, experiencing, market appreciation. And so those are the things to keep in mind when we're talking about trying to get that rent bump. Do we try to get rent bumps? Yes, absolutely, after that first year, but we wouldn't recommend losing your tenant. For the longest time that I can remember, our average length of stay has been 36 months. So we typically get about 3 years out of a tenant. As far as talking about offering other types of leases, we do make some exceptions. In the last year, we've started doing the Section 8 program, which has been overall a really positive experience. We were able to open up to tenants who need that type of housing, and our houses are typically nicer than most Section 8 houses. Those are 1-year leases. We're able to use our own lease, the lease that we wrote, so there's no changes. They just abide by our lease that we already use, but they're an automatic renewal lease. So if a tenant does not give their 60-day notice to vacate before the end of the lease, then it automatically locks in for another year. So the chances of you getting more than 1 year out of a 1 year Section 8 lease is really high. And then, and there are other cases. If a particular house is taking a little longer to rent than we'd like to see, and we have a tenant who's interested and they'll pay X amount of dollars, if we can sign a 1 year lease, then that's a smart thing to do, is just go ahead and take the 1 year lease. So we do make some exceptions there, but that's sort of our philosophy in a nutshell. Keep your tenant as long as possible, even if that means, not getting that $25 rent bump. We're of course going to try for you for that. And then we do have some exceptions depending on kind of what the situation is. And then too, we work with our clients on a personal human to human basis. If you have that request and you're more than open to that, then just let us know. And we can make that available for your property.
So we just had a question come in, Scott, in reference to the Section 8 lease, as far as how the renewals go. If with Section 8, the auto renew, does it auto renew? What does that process look like? Could you touch a little bit about the one year renewal lease for Section 8?
Yeah, so I guess I don't know if I can see the question. So I'll just do my best to just explain. But so a tenant needs to give a 60-day renewal or a notice to vacate towards the end of their lease. So if their lease is ending in January 1st, they need to have their notice to vacate in by the end of October. But if we don't get that, then that lease is going to go ahead and automatically renew and lock in for another year. Typically, that's what's going to happen. As far as rent increases go with Section 8 leasing, Section 8, we can't, in order to not be able to gouge the government because it's government price, government money coming from the rent, we can't just charge whatever we want and they're just going to pay it. They're going to do their own market research and find their own comps for what similar houses are renting for in that geographical area. So we kind of have to work with them a little bit. We can absolutely go after rent bumps if the market is supporting that. This goes back to what I was talking about before. It's all controlled by the market. If rents are rising in that area and it's reasonable for us to request a rent increase, then we can absolutely do that. If things are stable, then we might not be able to get that rent bump until things happen in the things start to go on the rise. I meant to mention this earlier, is that one of the things that we preach too is stability in rent prices, and this kind of works both ways, because rent prices aren't going to tank in Birmingham, Alabama. They're always going to be pretty stable, but they're also not going to see an exponential curve like you might see in Seattle or the Bay Area or Denver or New York City or something like that. It's going to be a much more gradual increase over time, just as things be more expensive, just kind of the trend line we've seen over the past 10 or 15 years that we've tracked. So I hope that answers the question. So Section 8, we can get the bump as long as the market supports it.
Yeah, and the only thing in addition to renewing a Section 8 lease is that if they are renewing, then that is one more inspection that they do. But those are typically, the houses are already renovated, so those tend to be fairly seamless. But yeah, that's pretty much how the Section 8 leases are renewed. So Maureen, I am going to let you kind of take from here and talk about why we are here. And I know that's kind of broad, but I want you to talk about the fundamentals of real estate. Why we are able to continue to lease, collect rent, manage the properties during this pandemic, and talk about just the fundamentals of real estate and how it can be so beneficial and crucial to helping investor clients build their overall wealth.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, especially because I'm someone that heavily invested in oil and gas. So had I redirected that money to real estate, I would be in a much better situation right now. So I think I'm pretty much expert at this particular topic because I learned a lesson, which many of the investors on the call may have learned too, but it was really reinforced here when I bought in at $50 a share. And I don't even want to know what oil is right now per barrel. But the thing is that I realized that if I took that same $200,000 and I put it in real estate, I would be sitting in a much better position. And something that I failed to mention earlier when we were talking about some of the changes, out of the last 5 recessions, real estate has increased in value 3 out of the last 5. So real estate has proven, and much to my delight, but also heartache, is that if I didn't diversify so much and I put more back in real estate, I would be sitting prettier, because real estate is not necessarily recession proof, like it's untouchable, but it definitely has proven itself to be recession resistant. As the sky is falling, real estate values continue to increase 3 out of the last 5 recessions. And so Scott touched on something. He started touching on some of the ways that investors get paid. And, you know, majority of us, especially new investors, they come in, they're like, cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. It's got to be $300 a month or I'm not going for it. It's got to be $400 or I'm not going for it. I'm like, whoa, time out. Time out. Let's think about some other ways that you earn through real estate, right? Real estate is a vehicle that the wealthy use to create and preserve more wealth, right? We use debt to acquire the asset, and then we use the benefit of the tax reductions that we get through ownership of real estate. So it sounds kind of counterintuitive, with like, how do you create wealth? Well, use debt and taxes. You're like, that doesn't even make any sense, but it does if you really break it down. You use a little bit of your money, a lot of someone else's money. Thank you, banker. They get paid interest. Great, you can have that money, but I want the other benefits that come with owning rental properties, and that is appreciation. 6% across the board is the United States average, right? So you get a $100,000 property and it appreciates 6% in 12 months. You just earned $6,000 phantom money that just showed up for you owning the asset. And you only put a little bit of money down, maybe 20% down, so 20 grand, right? So your 20 grand makes 6 grand. And if you plug that into the rate of return formula, you just made 30% return on your money. I can tell you, I have not made 30% return on my money in oil and gas. Just gonna let you know that. Right? So that's the first way, is through appreciation. Second way is cash flow. So, you know, let's say you make $150 a month. At the end of 12 months, that's $1,800. That's profit. You plug it into your rate of return formula. That's a 9% return on your money. 1,800 divided by 20,000, it's a 9% return on your money. So right now, just on the 2 basic ways that you earn from real estate, you just made 39% return on your money. Now, we don't even advertise that way. Like, we don't even put our performers, like, we don't present the data like that, because people would look at us and go, you guys are lying. Like, there's no way that you can return a 39% return on my money. It's true. It's very true. And it's the reason why so many people invest. The third way real estate pays you is through the loan pay down. Scott mentioned this, right? Every year, your principal goes down. If you start off with an $80,000 mortgage, at the end of 12 months, it's $79,000, right? That $1,000 was like putting money into your own checking account as a principal payment. That's a earnings to you, right? So $1,000 divided by your $20,000 down payment, that's a 5% return on your money, right? I can keep going, right? The point is, the fundamentals are really there. Depreciation is another thing. The reason that you buy rental properties in the first place is so that you can depreciate the asset, because the U.S. government says, hey, look, thanks for housing our people. For doing that, you get the benefit of depreciating that asset, not the land, because the land's not depreciable, but you can depreciate the structure. So let's do that, right? And then that's a tax savings on your schedule, your tax schedule, every year for 27 and a half years. And then there's the hedge against inflation. As the cost of living rises and your salaries increase, the loan is paid back in nominal dollars, not in inflation adjusted dollars. So what I love about some of our, and I've had some of these calls, and I'll kind of share a little bit here, like, I'll get some investors that'll call me, they'll be mad about something. They're like, oh, I got this repair and it's $600, and they're mad. And I'm going, you're so not looking at this the right way. That is a micro moment in a 30-year span or 10-year or 20-year span of you owning this property that's going to produce appreciation every single year, depreciation every single year. You get the cash flow. It might be a little lighter this month, this 1 month, because of this one repair, but overall, on the long game, in the long game, real estate pays you. And there's reasons why the wealthy have a significant portion of their portfolios in real estate. It's because of the numerous ways that pays you. When the stock market goes down, like Danny said, you're losing, and you have to wait for it to rebound. And then you have to wait for it to rebound even further to make up the difference from what you lost, right? So with real estate, whether housing values go up or down, the stock market goes up and down, pandemic, no pandemic, Y2K, 2008 global financial crisis, real estate has just been this nice little steady, I'm going to keep earning and keep producing and keep appreciating over time. And had I listened to myself and didn't buy the dang gas and oil, I'd be sitting in a better position. So learn from my mistakes, just get it that the fundamentals of real estate do not change no matter what is happening on the outside. And it's been recession resistant, not necessarily recession proof, but it's been really recession resistant. And we are here today because we know you guys just have questions in your mind. There's a lot of unknowns. And if you listen to the news, there's a lot of sensational headlines that can really heavily bring you down, emotionally beat you up. And I'm telling you, turn it off, because when you turn that off, everything else is still working just the same in our world anyway.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for that explanation. And I could actually hear Amanda and Scott going, preach. You're talking about the repairs, the minor repairs, because that they are going to happen. Those are inevitable. And the moment that you can kind of come to terms with that inevitability and the risk that does come with real estate, and we want to have the open discussions of those risks with investor clients, the sooner you'll be able to get on board with I couldn't even keep up with all of the ways that you listed with how real estate can be beneficial. So yeah, thank you. That was fantastic. I'm actually really surprised at how many questions Scott's mustache has gotten on our panel questions. But no, Scott, one more quick question too, since you're unmuted. Circling back to Section 8. So if one of our investors has a property that's on Section 8 and in the future they wish not to rent it that way anymore, can they pull it off?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. We can just take it out of the pool. That's no big deal. No.
Right. So we open all of our inventory, all of our coming out of construction inventory at the 30-day mark. We open it to, Section 8 tenants if they are. And then we have a lot of investor clients that say, hey, look, no, day one, let's get it on Section 8, et cetera, because the consistent income, not having to necessarily worry about the collection. That's peace of mind, pros and cons for both. So that is all that we have today. Thank you everybody so much for joining. I'm going to let you guys, our panelists, for donating your cocktail hour to Sips with Spartan. Hey, I'm going to let you guys take it and say goodbye to everybody. Maureen, you want to kick us off on the byes?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. Hey, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We so appreciate your trust, your loyalty, your business, your attention. We're here for you. Anything that you need, reach out. We're always available. I think you guys know that. We're very transparent and here to help you in any way that we can. Pandemic, no pandemic, real estate rocks. We love you guys. Thanks so much. Cheers. Peace.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. Same here. Just looking forward to that long-term relationship, to work with you guys and just kind of help you be transparent. And just, one of the great things is we are true turnkey. So, we're in this for the long haul, and we have a stake in your property for the long haul. So we appreciate it and look forward to next time. I'm sure there'll be a next time coming very soon.
I hope so. I love doing these. So thanks everybody for joining us. This is always super fun. It's good to be able to answer questions that we're getting from a lot of our clients and kind of get it all out there and just make sure everybody has the same information. So thanks everybody. I said this last time, but keep taking care of yourself. Be nice to yourself. Cut yourself a little slack. The dishes can wait. Laundry can wait. So just take care of yourself. Get outside. But I hope to talk to all you guys soon. And I can answer mustache questions via email or Facebook, but just let them fly.
Thank you so much, everybody, again, for joining us, and to all of our investors for being patient. We're also working through this new normal, but Scott and I are here to answer any questions that you have about your portfolio or follow-up questions from this session, and we look forward to having another Sips with Spartan soon.
Thank you all so much for joining us again. This is always been fun, and I hope we have a lot more fun like this in the future. I think we've all enjoyed this tremendously. If you have any questions regarding the closing process, or what's next, how do I navigate through all this craziness, come to me. I think I've done a decent job always navigating craziness, but I'm always here to answer your questions and concerns, and can direct you to whoever you need to be directed to. So stay safe, stay healthy, and cheers.
Thank you guys so much again from everybody at Spartan, our panelists. Thank you so much for dedicating this time. And for myself, thank you to everybody joining, and thank you for the overwhelming love and appreciation for the first one, which led us to this one, which hopefully will lead to future SIPs and whatever we can do to help answer any questions or uncertainties out there right now. So like Taylor said, cheers. My wine glass that I got from one of my kids, it says wine because raising tiny humans ain't easy. So I think everybody can relate to that. So cheers, everybody. Everybody have a great night.